Ready.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome to Fun and Friends. My name is Avalon.
I'm Sabrina.
And I'm Jasmine.
And welcome to our channel.
Thank you for being patient with us while we re-record an episode, and we'll be bringing more episodes later on in the evening. But thank you for being patient with us and trying to fix our audio.
We're going to be recording as many as we can tonight.
Well, yeah.
I was like, rephrase that.
Before we pass out from our super long weeks.
Yeah.
Definitely had a crazy week on my end.
Yes.
Anyway,
recap of last chapter. Well, the chapter before the chapter we already read, but we're going to restart today.
Because of audio issues.
So do I need to speak up loud? Do you have
thanks
your,
to our viewer for pointing that out to us. We really appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, we would not have known.
I didn't run the audio when I uploaded, so that's my bad, but thank you for catching that.
Yeah. Alright, so last chapter, Sophie made a threat up on the wall saying she was going to attack again. And Agatha is trying to hunt down and figure out if there's a way to fix things and all this jazz. And she ends up getting a tip from the story writer, or the blind artist.
I don't remember.
Saying to follow the clues under your nose, and albeit there was a trail of chocolate crumbs under her nose.
Yes.
So she followed it up to the men's bathroom in one of the towers, and Dot was over there stuffing her face with chocolate and crying. And Agatha was a sweet little nice person and soothed her, and in return, Dot is going to show her how Sophie keeps trying to get into the school without being caught, because all the main ways that are well known are being guarded.
Yes.
But there's another way. Ooh. All right. Let's start this next chapter.
Here we go.
That we've already read.
Yep. Again.
I don't even remember what we said. I'm sure we'll get to a point where we'll be like, oh yeah, I remember this part.
Symptoms. Hey, I remember this part.
I do remember this part.
Symptoms.
The roaring sewer river stretched through the long tunnel from good to evil, interrupted only by the doom room at the halfway point between the two schools. The beast had long guarded the halfway point, where clear water from the lake turned into a roiling sludge from the moat. But for the last 2 weeks, Sophie had trespassed unchecked and would no doubt return tonight as promised. Agatha's only hope was to stop her before she crossed back into good. As Agatha hugged the tunnel walls, approaching the doom room, her chest tightened. Oh, I remember this.
I wasn't kidding. You read symptoms and it was like a fast forward motion in my brain of everything that happened. I was like, oh yeah.
Sophie had never spoken of her punishment here. Had the beast left invisible scars? Had he hurt her in ways no one could know? By cutting her hair off? Wait until they're about to kill him. Agatha's head whipped down the tunnel. Tedros has to think you saved him from death, echoed Annabelle. Oh, Tedros has to think you saved him from death, said Annabelle's voice. Sweating through her dress, Agatha nudged along the sewer wall until she saw 3 shadows crunched in front of the dungeon's rusted gating. All the others will think it's Annabelle's attack, not ours, Hester said, voice resounding above the river's roar. Tedros will think you saved him. He'll think you risked your life. And then he'll love me? Asked the 3rd shadow. Agatha stumbled back in surprise. Hester spun. Who's there? Agatha inched out of the shadows. Hester and Annabelle jumped to their feet. Slowly, the 3rd shadow turned. In the dim light, Sophie looked bloodless, sunken, and a good deal thinner. My dear, dear Agatha. Agatha's mouth went dry. Oh, what's happening? She roused. We're helping a prince keep his promise. By staging an attack? By showing how I love him, Sophie answered. From the doom room came the clamor of loud grunts and squeals. Agatha reeled back. What's that? Sophie smiled. Annabelle's been working on her circus talent. Agatha sprang forward to see that it was what was in the cell, but Hester held her back over her shoulder. Agatha glimpsed 3 giant black snouts jutting from the gates, bearing razor-sharp teeth. They were sniffing something just out of reach. It was an Everboy's necktie with the embroidered T. Can't see well, poor things, Sophie sighed. Target by scent. Agatha bleached white. But that's Tedros's. I'll stop them before they do any harm, of course. Just give them a good scare. But suppose they attack other people. Isn't this what you wanted? For me to find true love? Sophie said, unblinking. Unfortunately, this is the safest way after all that's happened. Agatha couldn't speak. I've really missed you, Aggie, she said softly. I really have. Her voice cocked. Still, it's strange. The Agatha I know would love a Hall of Dead princes. Another violent grunt from the dungeon. Agatha ran for a door, but Annandale caught her and shoved her into the wall. Sophie, you can't do this, Agatha pleaded, fighting her grip. You have to ask him to forgive you. It's the only way to make everything right again. Sophie's eyes widened in surprise. They slowly narrowed. Come closer, Agatha. Agatha wrenched free from Annandale and stepped into the torchlight leaking from the dim room. Sophie, please listen to me. You look different.
Doesn't Sophie have a wart on her nose now? Like a wart on her body?
At the end of this chapter.
Oh.
Spoilers.
Sorry.
Deja vu, remember?
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine her in my head. Like, I think this is where her physical appearance is changing into
Well,
evil.
Agatha's just changed, where she's more beautiful, because she's more confident.
Right, but I also think I remember Sophie's physical appearance was starting to change too. So
Yeah.
I don't remember if it's
Yep. Well, I think it
here
was this chapter.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, wasn't sure.
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
Hey, don't jump down my
I don't know,
throat.
was it last chapter, folks?
I don't remember.
We don't remember anymore.
I'm sure we'll figure it out. I thought it was at the end something. I'm not going to spoil. Okay. Sophie, you can apologize to Tedros with the... Oh, sorry. You look different. Ever supper's almost over, Sophie. Annandale pressed, prompting impatient grunts in the cell. Sophie, you have to apologize to Tedros of the circus, Agatha said, raising her voice over them. When it's your turn on stage, then everyone will see that you're good. I think I prefer the old Agatha, Sophie said, searching her face. Sophie, I won't let you attack my school. Your school? Sophie shrieked so loudly Agatha cringed. So now it's your school, is it? She pointed to the sledge past the halfway point. Are you saying that school is mine? No, of course not, Agatha stammered. Tedros will see through this, Sophie. He wants someone he can trust. And now you think you know my prince? What my prince wants? I want you to get him back. You know, I don't think this look suits you, Agatha, Sophie said, stepping towards her. Agatha retreated. Sophie, I'm on your side. No, I'm afraid it doesn't suit you at all. Agatha slipped and fell, landing an inch from the roaring river. She crawled forward and froze in horror. So did Annandale and Hester. The beast stared back at him, hulking black body snared in the muck against the river wall, dead eyes flecked with blood. Agatha slowly raised her head to see Sophie gazing at him. Good never wants to hurt Agatha, but sometimes love means punishing villains that stand in our way. Howls echoed from above. Supper's over, Annandale gasped. Hester tore her eyes from the beast. Now, Annie, free them now. Panicked, Annandale thrust out a glowing finger to blast open the cell door. I have to warn him, Agatha sputtered, scrambling to her feet, but a force tackled her back down. She looked up dazed. Hester pinned her chest over the river's halfway point. Don't you get it? She hissed at her ear. Tedros is our nemesis. If Sophie's symptoms start, she'll stop at nothing to kill him. We're saving his life. No, it's evil.
We don't know that for sure, right?
Yeah, because it was just...
That's what, Hester's just assuming.
Oh,
Yeah,
because it could be
We have not actually
Abigail.
officially seen
Yeah, it's
who
just
her
a
dreams develop
blurry...
into.
Yeah, it's just a blurry face.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's starting to develop.
Yeah.
This is evil. Sophie approached and peered down at her, hanging over the edge between the sledge and the lake. Be gentle, Hester. Just help her back to her real school. Agatha heard the lock catch, saw the shadows of mammoth creatures squealing from the gates. Please, Sophie, don't. Sophie met her eyes softening. Don't worry, Agatha. This time I'll have the happy ending. Her face went cold, because you won't be there to ruin it.
Ooh.
Hester pushed Agatha into the
some friend.
spewing slime, dragged towards Evil. She gurgled and spat and tried in vain to open her stinging eyes, but as the moat grabbed her in its rip current, she lunged her hands blindly and found cold skin and pulled Sophie in. The two girls sank deep into the churning darkness. Terrified, Agatha shoved Sophie away and kicked towards the halfway point and clear water ahead. She glanced back to see the distant silhouette thrashing and sinking in the sledge. Sophie couldn't swim. Losing air, Agatha swiveled between clear water and Sophie towing under. With her last ounce of breath, she dove, seized Sophie's wrist, and lunged her to the surface, their heads bobbing above slime far down the evil sewer. "Help!" Sophie burbled. "Hold on to me!" Agatha shouted, pulling her against the gushing muck.
Ugh.
Choking, heaving, she flailed for the wall, but with Sophie's weight, she couldn't reach it. Either she let go of her and took a chance against the current. "Don't let me die," Sophie begged. Agatha clasped her tighter and lunged for the wall. Her fingers missed the slime, crashing into them, ripping their bodies apart. Submerged, she gasped for Sophie, but caught only her glass heel and watched her friend drowning into the darkness. In a flash, silvery hooks snared them both. Stunned, the two girls looked back to see the shimmering wave propel them out of the sledge into the clear blue water. In the wave swell, they realized they could breathe and were surrendered their last gasps in their puffed cheeks. As their pupils locked, Agatha saw Sophie's face grow red, scared, and if she'd woken from a terrible dream. But just as the enchanted wave pulled them to separate crests, about to hurl them back into their own schools, Agatha's eyes flared open. Ooh. A familiar shadow was turning towards them, black and crooked. Before Agatha could scream, it bashed into the wave, dislodging the girls from its grasp. The wave seized them in its spindly fingers and dragged them away from the castles towards the lake's outer banks. Agatha saw Sophie writhing against the shadow and joined her in the fight. Beaten back, the shadow lost its grip, but just as Sophie lurched for Agatha, it grabbed Sophie by the hips and threw her out of the water with shocking strength. Choking in horror, Agatha tried to swim away, but the shadow pounced and pulled her ahead, smashing underwater towards a reef of sharp rock. She closed her eyes and prayed for instant death, but this just in time for the schoolmaster to dig its grip into her flesh and fling her from the lake into the cold night air.
Ooh.
Agatha hit the ground so hard she was sure she'd black out. Somehow she held on long enough to open her eyes and see the massive trees ringed with violent thorns. She must be somewhere on the good grounds. Agatha tried to sit up, but her body exploded with pain and collapsed back into the soggy dirt. Why had the schoolmaster attacked the wave? How could she be hurled here with no explanation? Her head throbbed with anger and confusion. She'd tell Professor Dovey what happened. She'd demand answers. But first she had to get back to the school. Agatha craned her head up. All she could see were the same enormous trees gnarled with purple briars. She must be near the flower field where she and the other girls arrived on the first day, but where was the lake? She glanced behind her and caught a reflected gleam in the branches. Flooding with relief, she crawled forward, winced every inch until it was close enough to see. Her mouth fell open. It wasn't the lake. It was the spiked golden gates with the sign, "Trespassers will be killed." The school for good glowed high behind them. Spirals lit up the blue and pink. Agatha wasn't on school grounds. She was in the woods. "Agatha!" Sophie cried nearby. Agatha paled. The schoolmaster had set them free. She felt a crush of relief, then stabs of fear. All she had ever wanted was to go home with Sophie, but now that it had happened, all that had happened in the sewers left her terrified. "Agatha, where are you?" Agatha didn't make a sound. Should she find her, or should she just escape home? Her heart beat faster. But how could she leave now, when she finally felt like she belonged? "Agatha, it's me!" The pain in Sophie's voice snapped her out of her trance. What's happened to me? Sophie was right. She had started to believe this was her school, her fairy tale. She had started to hope that the face she kept seeing belonged to... No one could be that evil, Dot said. Agatha flushed with guilt. "Sophie, I'm coming!" she yelled. Sophie didn't answer. Suddenly anxious, Agatha scraped forward in the direction of her last call, swan crest tinkling in the darkness. Something tickled her leg. She glanced down to see a vine of violet thorns creep towards her hip. She kicked it away, only to see it snag her other leg. She lunged back, but two cuffed her arms. Two took her feet, briars multiplying until they snarled every inch of her flesh. Agatha jerked to escape, but the thorns pinned her to the ground like a lamb to slaughter. Then a thick one came, darkened and gorged, snaking maleficently up her chest. It stopped an inch from her face and eyed her with the purple lance. With calm ease, it coiled back and stabbed for her swan. Steel slashed the thorn open. Warm, bronzed arms pulled Agatha up. "Hold on to me!" Tedros yelled, hacking the briars with his training sword. Dazed, Agatha clung to his chest as he withstood thorn lashes and moans of pain. Soon he had the upper hand and pulled Agatha from the woods towards the spiked gates, which glowed in recognition and pulled apart, cleaving a narrow path for the two Evers. As the gates speared shut behind them, Agatha looked up at limping Tedros, crisscrossed with bloody scratches and blue shirt shredded away. "Had a feeling Sophie was getting through the woods," he panted, hauling her up into slashed arms before she could protest. "So, Professor Duffy gave me permission to take the fairies out and stake out the outer gates. Should have known you'd be here trying to catch her yourself." Agatha gasped at him dumbly. "A stupid idea for Princess to take on witches alone," Tedros said, dripping with sweat on her pink dress. "Where is she?" Agatha croaked. "Is she safe?" "Not a good idea for princesses to worry about witches either," Tedros said, hands gripping her waist. Her stomach exploded with butterflies. "Put me down," she sputtered. "More bad ideas from the princess." "Put me down!" Tedros obeyed and Agatha pulled away. "I'm not a princess," she snapped, fixing her collar. "If you say so," the prince said, eyes shifting downward. Agatha followed them to her gashed legs, waterfalls of brilliant blood. She saw blood blurring. Okay. Tedros smiled. "1, 2, 3. She fainted deftly in his arms. "Definitely a princess," he said. Tedros carried her towards 6 distant fairies playing in the lake and stopped cold in dead grass. Sophie looked up from her knees, black robes bloody. "Agatha?" "You!" Tedros hissed.
He's so fed up with her. He's so done.
Sophie blocked his path, holding out her arms. "Give her to me, I'll take her." "This is your fault," Tedros lashed, clasping Agatha tighter. "She saved my life," Sophie breathed. "She's my friend." "A princess can't be friends with a witch." Sophie flared, and her finger glowed pink. Tedros saw it, and his finger instantly glowed gold, raised to defend. Slowly, Sophie's face weakened. Her finger dimmed. "I don't know what happened to me," she whispered, tears welling. "Don't even try it," Tedros snarled. "It's that school," she sobbed. "It's changed me. Move out of my way. Please, give me a chance. Move. Let me show you I'm good." "I warned you," he said, storming for her. "Tedros, I'm sorry," Sophie cried, but he just shoved her aside and forged ahead. "The good forgive," a voice whispered. Tedros stopped. He looked down at Agatha, weak against his chest. "You promised her, Tedros," Agatha said quietly. He stared at her, stunned. "What? What are you going to say?" "Take her back to the castle," said Agatha. "Show everyone she's your princess for the ball." "But she's my friend," said Agatha, meeting Sophie's shocked eyes. Tedros' head whipped between them. "No, Agatha, listen to me." "Keep your words, Tedros," Agatha said. "You have to." I can't," he pleaded. "Forgive her." Agatha looked deep into his eyes. "For me." Tedros' voice caught, and he lost his fire. "Go," said Agatha, wrestling from his grip. "I'll come back with the fairies." Miserable, Tedros stripped off the remains of his blue shirt and draped them around her shivering pink shoulders. He opened his mouth to fight. "Go," she said. Tedros couldn't look at her and angrily turned away. His gashed leg buckled. Sophie lunged and thrust her shoulder between his arm, gripping his chest. The prince recoiled at her touch. "Please, Teddy," Sophie whispered through shamed tears. "I promise I'll change." Tedros pushed her away, struggled to stand, but then he saw Agatha behind Sophie. Her gaze reminded him of his own promise. Tedros tried to fight it himself, to fight himself, tried to tell himself promises could be broken, but he knew the truth. He went limp against Sophie's chest. Surprised, Sophie helped him forward, afraid to say a word. Tedros looked back at Agatha, who slackened with relief and shambled between them on her own. Resigned, the prince exhaled and hobbled under Sophie's arm. Sophie pulled him towards the lake with all of her strength, panting and sniffling. Little by little, she felt Tedros surrender to her grip. With a shy glance at him, she smiled through tears, her delicate face repentant. Finally, the prince managed a grudging smile in return. The half-moon glided from between the clouds, showering them with cleansing light. As he and Sophie reached the lake's bodies intertwined, Tedros looked down at the two shadows in perfect step. At his boots beside her glass slippers, at his bloody reflection in the glimmering waters, glowing next to an ugly old hag's. Tedros spun in horror, but there was only beautiful Sophie, shepherding him gently to good. He glanced back at the lake, but the water had clouded. His skin burst into chills. "I can't," he choked, wrestling free. "Teddy?" Sophie gasped. He staggered back and hoisted Agatha, who hacked in surprise. Sophie blanched. "Teddy, what did I do?" "Stay away from us," he said, clutching Agatha to his chest. "Stay away from us both." "Us?" Sophie shrieked. "Tedros, wait," Agatha begged. "What about—" "Let her find her way to evil," the prince spat and raised his glowing finger to call the fairies. Sophie shrank in shock. Agatha looked back from Tedros' arms, flushed with apology, but her friend's face had no forgiveness. Instead, it swelled red with feral fury and hate. "Look at her!" The echo blasted across the lake. Agatha went white. "She's a witch!" Sophie screamed. Slowly, Tedros turned, his eyes cutting through her. "Look closer." Sophie watched in horror as the fairies swirled around the two Evers. In Tedros' arms, Agatha had the same expression, for now she saw they were in the right schools all along. As Sophie watched the fairies fly Agatha and her prince away, she stood frozen on the lake's shore, panting warm breath alone in the darkness. Her muscles knotted with tension, then her fingers curled into crackling fists. Her blood boiled hotter, her body blazing with fire, and just as she thought she'd explode into flames, a sharp pain stabbed her chin. Sophie put her hand to it. Something there. Her fingers crawled over it, trying to understand, until she felt two wet drops splash onto her arm. She stepped back as the wave rose high, swathing her in shadow. Sophie crashed through the window of room 66 in a heap of sludge. Hester and Anderdal leapt off the bed. "We searched everywhere! Where were you?" Hand to her face, Sophie crawled past them to the last shard of the mirror left on the wall and stopped cold. There was a big black wart on her chin. Sophie frantically picked at it, pulled at it, then saw her roommates in the reflection, white as sheets. "Symptoms!" they both gasped. Dripping, shaking, Sophie dashed up the stairs to the top floor study and blasted the lock open with her glowing finger. Lady Lesso exploded from the bedroom in her nightgown, finger thrust out. Sophie instantly levitated off the floor, strangled for breath. Lady Lesser lowered her hand, bringing Sophie gently to the floor. Eyes wide, she slunk towards Sophie and took her trembling face on her sharp red nails. "Just in time for the circus," she said, fingers caressing the swollen black wart. "The Evers are in for a surprise." Sophie flailed for words. "Sometimes our henchmen know better than we do ourselves," Lady Lesso marveled. Sophie shook her head, not understanding. Her teacher's lips grazed her ear. "He's waiting for you." Ooh. As the torches in the castle went dark, only a pregnant moon remained, lighting up the shadows, slashing through the blue forest. Shrouded in her black snakeskin cape, Sophie smashed through the ferns and oaks, shivering uncontrollably. When she arrived at the giant stone well, she slammed her body against the rock, blocking its shaft over and over before it budged. Climbing through the bucket, she lowered herself into the darkness until a piece of moonlight lit up the bottom. Against the smooth, milky wall, Grim waited, cheeks and wings blackened with grime. The walls around him were covered in thousands of drawings of the same face, a face carved in blood-red lipstick, a face she couldn't make out in her dreams. But here, in the dead of night, her nemesis had a name, and it wasn't Tedros.
Bum, bum, bum.
Brum, brum, brum.
All
Alright.
right. Well, that
Thoughts?
was fun to reread. Thank
actually
you
didn't
guys
last
for
too
your
long.
patience.
Yeah.
If you have any questions,
Or
if
comments.
you think you know who her nemesis is going to be,
I think we kind of
Abigail.
already know. I mean, if you don't already know, I mean, you I mean, if you don't already know, I mean,
Okay, we don't really care. What we
Not
really
paying
care about is what
attention.
did you do to celebrate Halloween? Did you carve a pumpkin? Did you go to a pumpkin patch? Let us
Did
know.
you give out candy?
Yes.
We gave out candy.
not her.
I didn't give
Loser.
out. I made the bags my family gave out. I made little goodie bags so that way kids wouldn't touch each other's germs from digging in a candy bowl.
Mhm.
So we made like 100 little goodie packs with like it had like 5 pieces of candy and like little stickers and
I
little
did-
like zombie tattoos.
We had one kid
and-
just dump my whole bucket. in.
Oh my gosh, that was hilarious.
Him and his dad both
His
just took their
dad did
buckets
it
and
too.
dumped it
She
in the
goes-
backpack.
Yeah, she goes, take as much as you want.
As you
And
like.
he goes, and she's thinking,
A
3 or
handful
4,
or 2
or a handful.
No, you gotta be careful. Everyone's jerks. You have
And
to
No,
say.
I've never had that
Oh,
problem
we
though.
always have that
But
problem.
the thing is, I've never had that problem, so
Mm.
it's not like
Yeah, you gotta be like, take a
An
handful.
No,
Well-
and so the kid's like, really?
I was
And then the dad was like,
already doing it.
yeah, he's like picks the thing up and just starts putting
So
it
he
in a
just
backpack.
copied
He's like,
him.
we're like, what?
It's like,
But yeah, I'm so sick
Yeah.
of Halloween after everything that I did. It was like a week of Halloween. We did like
Yeah.
pumpkins. We did
at our school.
At our school, we had a harvest festival. They did door-to-door trick-or-treating. The 5th graders led all of the younger grades
That's cute.
door to door while all of the teachers handed out candy and prizes to the kids, which
That
was
is
really fun. But I'm like
Halloweened
so
out.
Halloweened out. I love Halloween, but I dressed up for 4 days. I was like, I'm done.
Mhm.
I'm not dressing up as Princess Anna anymore.
Well, when I went to try and tell the kid, well, just like 1 or 2, then the dad started dumping the other bucket
Yeah, it was
of
like
my. Add 2.
she
candy
had
buckets.
2 full buckets that she literally had
I just
filled,
topped off,
and it was like over the top of the bucket, and it was
Yeah.
You
like
took the whole bag?
he took.
They
took
both did.
both of
Before
the
I could
box.
stop them, they were already doing it. The dad had already dumped the other bucket in.
Yeah, it was
I was like,
2
why
buckets.
would-
I would have been like, excuse me. Usually when people
Well,
say that, they
here's the
think,
thing. Here's the little thingy at the end. So at the end, I was like, I had all my stuff. We have a ledge in my front yard, separates
Mhm.
2 layers of ground, and I have a little ledge, and I put my little candy bucket over there and my other display items over there to the side, and I put all my little tea light candles in the bucket with the candy because there's just a little bit left, and I was folding up the tablecloth. I had already brought everything else inside, so it's just a table and chair left in my driveway. Like, no, my lights were on,
mm-hmm.
everything's on. That same fucking group of kids, sorry, excuse me, freaking same group of kids came running across the street and just was searching for my bucket and took my bucket.
What?
I said, you took my candles, like, you need to give them back. I had to go and hunt them down to give them back my candles, and
Are
I'm
you
still missing
serious?
4 out of the 12. I'm still missing 4. It was the same group that dumped the whole bucket in, too. It's like, I kind of chew the mom. I'm like, are you really kidding me right now? You're
Yeah.
allowing your kid this behavior? It's
Yeah.
unacceptable. That's greed.
I
and
saw.
stealing, and those
and
are the
it's
reusable
your-
candles, right?
Yeah.
Like the light up ones.
Yeah.
Those are not cheap.
No, I bought a
So the
12
fact that
pack
they
on
ran
Amazon.
over and stole them is really
And
messed
I
up.
mean, I got most of them back, but just like,
I would have counted, but like, excuse me, there's 4.
I did, and I'm like, I'm still at least missing 2 because I had 2 in another pumpkin. Like, I'm missing 2. Like, I need 2, and all the kids like, I don't have it. And the mom's like, well, they don't have it. They
I'd
say
be like,
they don't
no,
have
you
it. I'm
guys
like,
were
I'm like,
jerks.
no, and they
I
just
want to
walked
see all your
away.
bags, or I'm going to call the cops.
They just walked away.
No, I would have said like, you're going to show me your bags, or I'm going to call the cops.
I didn't have, it was a group of 10 kids.
Doesn't
Like, I don't
matter, you
have the energy or
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
That's BS. I'm sorry, girl. That's not
Mhm.
fun.
it's
Well,
9 o'clock at
on
night.
a nice note,
That was my Halloween.
a
Ransack.
Hashtag rage.
So
Right?
I was looking on TikTok the other day, and it was a video of like this boy like stealing all the candy that's like somebody left in a bowl outside of the.
Oh, yeah.
And they like poured it into a backpack, and then these 2 little kids came over and they saw that the bowl was empty, and they pulled out their sack and they started putting the candy back in the bowl.
I've
I
seen a
was like,
TikTok like that.
Oh my gosh! Okay,
That was
restoring
so
faith in
sweet.
humanity. I feel better.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, there is some.
I had a lot of good kids. I had about
on a cool
300
note,
kids.
I was like, let's not leave this on a.
I have
negative note.
my family has like this like 15-foot tall like zombie, and it got decapitated this year. Yeah, like the whole like neck came off. And so it's like a head and arms on like wire, and it's got like gauze to make it look like this big, giant, tall thing. My dad gave me permission. I'm gonna turn it into a Dementor from Harry Potter for next
Oh,
year.
like what I had at the
yeah,
party?
but this is gonna be like 15
Huge.
feet tall.
I need
Nice.
to...
It's gonna be bigger than the ones at the actual ride.
What are your
I'm
favorite
excited.
parts of Halloween? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you guys love about it and how you celebrate as well after you hear our stories, good and bad. I mean, mine wasn't terrible. It was just an unfortunate moment.
My
had
dad
happened.
got a new one out that's like a clown that has a bowl and its upper body's mechanical. So if kids were over the age of like 10, 12, he let them come to the candy bowl, and as they reached in, it like pops up at you. I was like, it's a good thing Avalon didn't come over.
Yeah. I think
I'm
you had a
wuss.
good
It was
night.
kind of scary. I walked around the corner. I was like, what the fuck is that? He's like, oh, it's my new one.
That was
I'm a
fun.
wuss.
I think we had a good night though.
We did.
Overall,
All right,
we had a lot
guys,
of good
next
kids.
chapter. We'll see you soon.
Bye.